So, Charles, welcome to Spanish Palate, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule and your planning of your move and everything to come and taste wine with us. And, the world of wine, which we both love so much, is full of incredible and wonderful people, which we meet all the time. But I do have to say that for me, you are one of the most incredible people in our industry, and many people agree with me on that. And it is an absolute honor to have you taste our wines.
You're very kind. Thank you.
So really, thank you so much for doing this.
Pleasure. Good to be with you. Good to be here.
Wine.
And we got a trio of wines from Estadea.
Yep, new wines, brand new wines in the market just right now. So
good. And the first one, the one I've just poured into my glass, is the 2018 Valle Estadea Rioja Rosado, which is a lovely sort of pale pink color, but it's pink. And I have to say that there are some wines that claim to be rosé, particularly from the south of France, which you can hardly identify as pink at all. And one of the things I love about a pink wine is that it should be claret, frankly pink. And this has got a lovely sort of pinkish coral color, which is great. And very fresh, very lively, a little hint of pear drop still, but young and inviting and very appealing. And I find myself wondering, I'm thinking Rioja Oriental, so probably mostly Garnacha?
It's about 50%, just under 50% Garnacha. And there's also quite a bit of Tempranillo. It's about 40% Tempranillo, Tinto. But the secret weapon here is this little dose of Tempranillo Blanco, which is, as we know, is an up-and-coming grape. White Tempranillo.
Those must be quite young vines, because until recently, Tempranillo Blanco was just, I can't remember which bodega first discovered this freak white version of Tempranillo, but it wasn't that long ago. I mean, was it maybe 10, 15 years ago, something like that?
I think just over 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, something like that. And it was an actual natural process. It was a mutation in the vineyard. It wasn't something that planned. And, there's several wineries that claim to be the original discovery. I have a couple of those names, but I'm not getting involved in that.
No, let's not. Probably let's not.
Anyway, white Tempranillo.
But mostly Garnacha, which I think Garnacha Tinta makes lovely rosé. Whether it's as the French cousin, the French variety Grenache Noir, or Garnacha Tinta, which of course is the original, it's really good for Rosado, rosé, whatever you like to call it.
It just produces light and fresh.
It's light and it's fresh, and it really sort of changes character, because as a red wine, it can be quite rich, quite dense, but I think it reflects where it's grown very precisely. So if you push it up the hills into a slightly higher altitude, you get much lighter, more elegant wines. Anyway, this one is lovely. This note of pear drop.
I'm drinking that. That's lovely. It's the
really
summer.
Zingy, fresh, bright, fantastic summer pink. I mean, it would be just wonderful to sit out in the evening and have a couple of glasses of that before moving on to a red, perhaps. This would be great with food as well. No reason just to exile it to the sort of pre-dinner drinks. It's a lovely, because it's dry, seems bone dry. It's got a lovely lingering sort of red fruit flavor on the palate, but it's just this freshness. It's bright, it's fresh, and it just shows what a lovely region Rioja is, because as we know, it's protected between mountains up in the north of Spain, not north, but 100 kilometers down from the north coast, and it lies between the Sierra de la Demanda and the Sierra Cantabrica at the top. And so it's really protected, and it's opened a bit more in the Rioja Oriental, but there's high country, there are higher places. I don't know whether these grapes come from higher vineyards, but it tastes delicious.
These are in the lower part of Rioja. So they're on the sort of flat, hotter plains. So it's not the traditional mountainous regions with the trellised vines on the slopes. These are bush vines, and it's the hottest part of Rioja. It's the driest part of Rioja. It almost looks like Toro, really.
Well, what I would say that if these come from the hottest part of Rioja, this is very good winemaking. They've really been careful to pick at the right moment while the grapes have still got good acidity, and they've kept that lovely freshness, that sort of raspberry fruit. It's an absolutely lovely wine, lovely summer wine.
I mean, we shared this project. We created this project for a company based in the UK called Pattison & Co. It's a newly sort of developed wine division of Drinksology, which is an amazing company based in the UK. And they said, okay, we would like to bring a fresher and different approach to Rioja. And so Spanish Palate with our winemakers, and we traveled all around Rioja, and which we obviously know quite well. And this is from a bunch of farmers, the co-op, and their grapes are just incredibly good. And you know, a lot of the thing with the co-ops, they own some of the best vineyards in many regions. It's just what they do with it. And
it's what you do with the grapes.
And that's where we come in. That's where Spanish Palate comes in to help them to produce something like this. So we would.
Good. Well, it's a really successful example of your project. We try red.
Let's try red. But before we go into the red, about the thing about this rosé color, you know, we talk to Spanish winemakers all the time, and we're having a tough time in Spain because with the rosés, because everybody in Spain makes, you know, big, full-bodied rosés with really deep color, which almost looks like a sort of a light French red. And everybody,
almost a clarete.
Exactly. And everybody's telling us around the world, we need a light color, like a Provence style color. And if you want to sell rosé, that's what you have to make. So the world is trying to change and tell Spanish winemakers what they want to do. And so the producers are saying, okay, if I produce a lighter color rosé, I can't sell it in Spain. But if I keep doing my big, heavy rosé color, I can't sell it in international wine markets. So we're just being driven crazy at the moment. So I think this is a nice sort of mid.
I have to say, I think this is a very nice sort of middle way.
Absolutely.
Because it's not as faded as the rosés you get from Provence. And it's not, you're absolutely right, it's not as deeply colored as some of the traditional Spanish rosados. But, you know, it's pink. It's not a dark pink, but it's a definite pink. And I would have thought that would go really well. But because you're right, it is fashionable to have paler rosés. The trouble is that some of those paler rosés also taste of very little, which is a pity. Whereas the traditional Spanish rosado is bursting with flavor. And this is a lovely modern version. Great. Okay, let's try red. Okay. Now I've got the Tinto 2018. Tinto Joven, it says Cosecha 2018 on the back. And so it makes no age claim at all. Mm-hmm. So I would not know if I bought this bottle just like that, whether to expect just a lovely, ripe, fruity wine, or whether to expect some oak or what. And actually, it's got a very nice, lovely sort of gentle mid sort of garnet kind of color with a little pink edge to the tinge, to the rim. And it seems to me to have a little bit of oak in there, but it's still very much an accent on the fruit. Any oak?
Nope.
No oak. No oak.
No, just stainless steel fermentation.
It's got lovely fruit. It really has lovely fruit. And it's young, it's fresh. It's not, what I like about this is that some of those very traditional Joven wines from Rioja, they have that sort of bubblegum fruit pastel kind of thing that you get from Maceración Carbónico, the sort of carbonic maceration that is very widely practiced in the French region of Beaujolais. And this one doesn't. It just smells of ripe sort of strawberry fruit. And I think that's yummy.
I think you get the you see that it's the lower region of Rioja. You know, you get extra ripeness with this. The lovely ripeness on the fruit is just delicious. And on the palate, it's just so soft and lovely and juicy.
It is. I mean, it's got a whisper of tannin, just to remind you that it is a red wine. But actually, it's incredibly easy drinking. I actually put this bottle into the fridge for about 30 minutes because I doubt if it's as hot as it is where you are, but it's warm here in England. It's about sort of 20, 21 degrees. And it had sat in my living room, which is relatively cool inside the house. But I felt the neck of the bottle and I thought, ooh, this is just a little bit warm. I'll pop it in the fridge for half an hour. And actually, that's a really good thing. And a wine like this with very low, very gentle tannins, I think you can give just a bit of cooling to, particularly in the summer, if it's hot outside and you want a drink to be refreshing. And I think just giving it, half an hour in a fridge, that will just bring the temperature down slightly and it makes it just that bit more refreshing.
That's how we drink all the young unoaked reds across Spain during the summer. You go to the typical tapas place and they will serve you young white wine straight from the fridge that's been actually sat next to the rosés and the whites actually. Because it's when it's 30 degrees outside and you want a bit more flavor than perhaps a white or a rosé, but you don't want it to be room temperature. And
no, you don't. Absolutely not. I remember once in London many years ago going into a tapas restaurant and I ordered, actually it was a Rioja Crianza, and they brought it to the table and I felt it and I thought, oh my goodness me, that's hot. I poured it in the glass and I thought, I can't drink it at this temperature. And so I asked them to bring an ice bucket. They thought I was bonkers, but they brought the ice bucket. I gave it 20 minutes in there and it was so much better. It was a warm night and it just tasted so much better. But this is lovely, gentle, easygoing, very fruity, very typical Rioja Joven. I assume this is mostly Tempranillo, but could have some Garnacha.
It's 50% Garnacha and
Rioja Oriental.
And then we have a ton of Tempranillo for the makeup, but there's just 5% Mazuelo thrown in at the end there.
Just to give it more cojones.
Yes. Well, it just gives it sort of an extra layer of complexity. It's not the average entry level. There's much more to it than that. But these wines are all about gentle, lovely Rioja that you can drink by the glass. You can drink with food, without food. And these just explain why Rioja is probably Spain's best loved wine region around the world. Because they're just so inviting. They're so easy drinking. And you could just sit there chatting away, with your friends and your family, just eating and, grazing along with a barbecue or whatever.
This would be this is a dangerously easy wine to drink.
Absolutely.
I can quite see that if you were sitting around waiting for something to sizzle on a barbecue, you could be outside half a bottle of this without really noticing. But luckily, it's only, it's 14%, so you might notice.
Yeah.
But it's lovely. It's a delightful drink. Okay, on to the Crianza.
Yep, okay.
So, Santa Estadea. We've moved up. We're now holy and sainted. And this is then, it's a 2017, the Crianza.
Which is just the new vintage of the Crianza coming out of Rioja. Okay.
So I'm just trying to think. It could be younger than this for a Crianza now. We're now 2020. It could be a 2018, perfectly legally within the law. Just.
Yeah.
But this is your new release 2017. Does that mean that it's had a little longer in oak than the legal minimum?
It's just had a little bit longer in bottle because the fruit and the oak just need that little bit of time to blend, and the bottle time is sometimes overrated in other wine countries, whereas Spain we give a lot of attention to bottle time. And Crianzas, we have this Joven, Crianza, Reserva, so labeling system, and Crianza has to be 2 years, right? And in the cellar from picking the grapes to release. And those wineries that are fortunate enough to be able to hold on a little bit longer to their crianthas and don't have to push them out the door really quickly to get the money turned over, which is, you know, these guys' case. This is an historic winery, and they have some amazing juice just sat there in barrels and in a bottle. And because they've been around for a long time, they have this privileged position to be able to age properly in bottle. And I think this.
That's great. That's great. I mean, to be honest, I remember when I first went to Spain many years ago, it was more time in barrel or indeed large oak vats.
Yeah.
And that wasn't necessarily giving much to a wine. It was allowing a sort of gentle oxidation, but nothing positive particularly. And some of the oak vats were in really pretty poor shape. And when they moved more to steel, that was a huge improvement actually. But you know, I think the idea of aging in bottle perhaps doesn't go back quite as far as you think, because there was a lot of importance given to aging in barrel, and
it makes a massive difference.
It does, makes a huge difference. I must say, I stick my nose into this, and I think this is a really, it's got this oaky scent that I think so many people, certainly here in the UK, would say, "Ooh, is that Rioja?" Because it really sort of says, "Hello, I'm Rioja, I'm oaky, but I'm sort of sweet and fruit." When I say sweet, I don't mean actively sugary, but I mean just lovely sweet fruit and this oaky flavor, oaky scent to start with.
It is just so Rioja.
It's very Rioja. Quite firm tannins, bit of oak tannin there perhaps. Do you know, to be perfectly honest, Nicola, if I had this in my cellar, I might leave it for a bit. I think, you know, it's had a bit of time in bottle already at the winery, but I think I would leave it for, I don't know. I got too many bottles in my cellar anyway. But you know, I often bring up a bottle and I think, oh my goodness me, this is going to be past it. And I take out the cork and I pour a glass and I think, wow, actually, this is still in very good nick. There are some that are past it, because I think it's true to say nowadays that wines, there aren't that many wines that are sold to you in order for you to keep them before drinking. And one of the things I love about the Spanish system of Crianza Reserva, Gran Reserva, is that it's a system, okay, they get more expensive as you go through, but they've done most of the aging for you. And so when you buy a bottle of Crianza, you can drink it. Same with Reserva, Gran Reserva, because the aging has already been done at the bodega. This, I would be happy, I'm happy to drink it now, but I think this would come up smiling if I left it for a couple of years in my cellar. But I'm lucky enough to have an underground cellar, so they age very gently.
I think
but it's classic.
2017's Crianzas Riojas, I think, you know, they're perfectly ready for drinking right now. Like you said, I would be quite happy to open this tonight and drink it with, you know, pasta or, you know, it's such a diverse kind of wine as well. You could have this by itself as well. But it's so nice that Spanish wineries actually take the time to age the wines for you, not like other countries, you know. It's just this whole system of, and traditionally, the Spaniards used to think the more time in oak, the better the wine, you know, coming back to what you were saying. And so my generation, who's taken over a while ago now, have just turning this whole thing on its head and saying, okay, well, maybe the specific time in oak is not the only thing that we should consider for quality. You know, maybe so just because some rules and regulations tell us that this should have 12 months in oak or 18 months in oak, maybe if we want to bring it out into the market after 11 months in oak, then let's do it, you know.
Fine. And if it's not allowed to say Crianza on the back, too bad. Yeah. If that's what the winemaker wants to do. And I think that I respect that a lot. And the other thing, it's interesting, but you don't see as many Gran Reservas as you used to.
I hardly see them.
The sort of top of the tree of any particular producer is that Reserva. And I think Gran Reserva has a more limited market now, maybe more a Spanish market than an export market for these wines which have had a long time in oak. and it slightly takes away the initial fruitiness of the wine. You get other things forming, which can be wonderful, but not all wines are really capable of aging like that in barrel. And I think much better to seize them while they're young and fruity and in a good place than just leave them in barrel until they're dry and dusty. Anyway, this is certainly not dry and dusty.
It's really hard to find Grand Reservas right now. You know, in the Estadea range, we also make a Reserva as well. But we definitely don't want to do a Grand Reserva. It's just, it's the style, the market for like super oaked older wines is so tiny. And it's such an investment for the winery, for the producer, because you have to pay for the grapes, pay for the winemaking, pay for the barrels, and you don't even start selling the wine for another 5 years.
I know.
You know, so, and especially with COVID and all the things that's going on, nobody's going to put money in the cellar for 5 years anymore. So,
no, I think this is lovely, and this really ticks the Rioja box. It's got that lovely ripe fruit, together with that definite note of oak that I think people identify with Rioja.
And this is all, well, mostly Tempranillo. This is 93% Tempranillo and 7% Garnacha. Because the wine's aged, you need the extra backbone from the Tempranillo, which just, you know, keeps it all together and gives that a bit more umph, you know. And this with a little bit of roasted lamb would be the thing. This is what we would have in Spain, like roasted lamb.
Absolutely.
Except for I'm the only vegetarian in Spain, so I could have this with.
You must find life slightly difficult.
Well, I
it's
tend
not
to.
really the wine for roasted red peppers, delicious though those are.
It works. It works. We make it work.
Quite right. No, but it's a lovely wine. As someone who's still happily eating meat, although I eat less than I used to, I think some chuletillas, some little lamb chops, would be delicious with this one.
A nice bit of Zamorano or Manchego, you know, really lovely cured cheese would be delicious.
Yeah, absolutely. A good hard cheese.
Mm. Okay.
Anyway.
Well, I'm glad you liked the little intro into our new line of Rioja
Yeah, well
wines.
done. I think it's a lovely little corner of Rioja, and it's Rioja with a sort of modern slant to it, which, because Rioja is a region that people think they know, oh, I know Rioja. Yeah, you know, if you ask most British people what Spanish wines they've heard of, they would probably say Rioja before anything else.
Of course.
You might have to prompt them to mention sherry. You might, with a little prompt, get cava, but that first answer would almost certainly be Rioja. And they know it, and they know the style, and this is a lovely example of that Rioja style in a light, sort of fresh, modern kind of way.
When you taste this, and it's easy to understand why Rioja is, you know, Spain's most loved wine region. So,
absolutely. Good.
Okay. Thank you
Lovely
so much.
Chatting with you, Nicola. Thanks.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.